How's everybody doing today? Daniel, Mr. Cuervo Racing. Check out our Facebook page, Cuervo-Racing or at Mr. Cuervo Racing. And like, subscribe on our channel here. So today we're talking about durability of modified engines. And I commonly get the question of how durable is a high compression engine, or what kind of wear am I going to see. So 3 years ago about this time in 2015, I built this engine. It's a 2015 Raptor 700, one of the first ones I put together and did testing on. I left the crank stock, transmission stock. I did do a high compression CP piston, which we were using at the time, and built this engine to 70 horse. And as time progressed and the bike went to a new owner, the engine got modified up to 75 horse and was drag raced most of its time. A little bit of dune riding, but the majority of that 3 years was all drag racing, both at the track and at the dunes. So I'm gonna show you some of the wear on some of these components, and talk about why that's happening, how long these components were living, and stuff to look for. So let's see where to start. So we'll start with the piston. So this is a piston that came out of this engine. It's high compression, standard bore. Basically, this piston came out in really good condition after the time it served, showing minimal wear. The rings themselves are fully worn, so it was down on compression due to needing a new ring pack. Besides that, a couple little vertical scores. Nothing really can even feel. You can see it, but you can't really feel that on there. And a little bit of wrist pin bore galling. So piston overall really nice. The cylinder, I can't show you that right now, but the cylinder bore looks great. There was some signs of a little bit of head gasket seepage on the deck surface. Otherwise, the cylinder most likely could get honed and resurface on the deck and ran again. On the wrist pin, you'll see that here. The wrist pin did show substantial evidence of galling and metal transfer. You see both on the left and the right side. There's substantial metal transfer all the way around this wrist pin. I don't see any signs of any substantial heat buildup, but this is a common issue on the stock rod. Will gall this wrist pin. So that's pretty bad wear on the crank itself. Let's see if I could show you that. Let's see. Yeah, you can see in there a little bit that pitting inside that rod. This bike was running, and it was running fine. It was down a little bit on power, but not making any noises or doing anything weird. So all of this wear I'm showing you is all stuff that hadn't yet created a failure. So next thing we're gonna look at is camshaft chain. Normally I don't have an issue with cam chains. You can see right there how that link is not hanging smooth. Basically what I'll do is I'll run the chain through my fingers, and you can see different spots where it doesn't hang all the way and it's kind of kinked up. So this chain needs replacement. These cam chains are relatively cheap and fairly easy to replace. So this was not quite dead. It's getting there, but if you're in the motor, that's going to get replaced. So on to shift forks. Shift forks show a little bit of wear in this area. It's basically that fork was torqued over enough for this portion to hit the gear instead of these faces. A little bit of wear on the faces. Not too bad. Not too bad. This fork is the fork that shifts between 4th and 5th gear. In this orientation in the engine, pushing down is engaging 4th gear, which most of these bikes are raced using 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gear, and there is substantial wear here as well as on the edges. So this fork will probably get replaced. Most guys would continue to run that, but we're going to replace that. So on to different aspects of the transmission. Actually, let me show you this oil pump first. So this engine was clean and new, and this customer took great care of this engine oil changes consistently, and kept this bike clean. The only hard life it got was drag racing. But this is one of the rotors inside the oil pump. As you can see, it has substantial pitting on it, and this is from metal going through the oil pump. Let's see. That one's a little tougher to see. On the rotors, it's easier to see how much pitting is actually on them. So even though the customer didn't think that there would be an issue with the oil pump, there's a substantial amount of wear on the oil pump, which is going to reduce volume as well as pressure. Now you might ask, well, why is that oil pump damaged? Why is there metal going through the oil pump? And I will show you that right now. So besides the minimal amount of metal that came off of this wrist pin, that wear, that other metal is coming from the transmission gears, the cogs on the gears. So this is 4th gear on the input shaft, and these corners here of these cogs are chipped and worn. So let's see if we can see that. Come on, focus. So the edges of these are chipping away, and those small portions of metal are coming off of there and traveling through the engine and through the oil pump and causing that damage to the oil pump. So that wear, this is 3rd gear. This wear is evident on most of all the cogs. Has substantial chipping at that edge. Here's one of the contact areas. This is 5th gear on the input shaft. These edges are worn. This one's sharp and this one's rounded off. So that's where that metal is coming from throughout the all of the contact cogs show that same sort of wear. So that type of wear does happen when you are shifting quickly without the use of the clutch, or downshifting the same without the use of the clutch, helping disengage and match those gears or allow them to engage easier. So the only other wear on actual some teeth is this gear here has some pitting on it. You see right in there, there's some pitting. A couple of these, this gear is the 2nd gear on the input shaft. That one showing wear. So a couple other things we ran into and why we pull these transmissions all the way down is some of these bushings inside the transmission get a little bit of metal between them and the gear, and you'll see damage there. Without pulling the transmission all the way down and inspecting these, you won't know that that damage was there. So a little bit of particles of metal get in there, they kind of skip across out of that oil hole and cause damage to that. So all those components are getting replaced. This engine is going back together with a different transmission, so most of the stuff will go in the trash. But that is that's the substantial or visible, notable wear after 3 years of drag racing. In my opinion, it's transmission's a little bit rough. Not bad. It wasn't skipping out of gears or anything, but it's a little bit rough for its age, but mainly due to the application. So if this were a regular trail bike or dune bike, it would show a lot less wear on the transmission, which would then show a lot less wear on the oil pump. And that's about all the notable issues. Besides the crank, I've seen these go for a long time, these wristbands, in that condition. That's not great. I really don't like to see that bad, but I have seen them run a long time like that. So that's it for today. I guess the main thing I would say is pop out that oil pump. Whenever you're in the engine, pull that oil pump out. It's right behind the clutch basket. Relatively easy to get to. And inspect it or put a new one in. That tells you a lot about what's going on in the rest of your engine. We'll talk to you soon.